Five, four, three, two, one. This is Deductor bringing you set 1 of the 2011 JinAir OSL Finals, the grand finals between Jangbi and Fantasy. Now, can you believe that I have not watched this match, even though, or this series, including this match, even though it took place way back in August, simply because I did not have the time. Here we see Fantasy on SKT1, of course. And this story of Fantasy versus Jangbi is just, I don't see how you can create something as epic as something like your Fantasy versus Jangbi. There's Jangbi, of course. This is almost like a Flash versus J-Dog. There's so much history here. But let's consider the last OSL. Fantasy against Stork. Stork, of course, also on Samsung Khan, the other good Protoss on that team, and Fantasy crushed him 3-0. And before that, they had met in another OSL, in which case Stork won his only gold medal 3-2 against Fantasy. So this is Fantasy's chance to go for 2 OSL goals straight, which I would say, if he can do that, he is certainly the number 2 Terran, possibly even in contention with Flash for the spot of number 1. On the other hand, we have Jangbi. Once upon a time, one of the greatest Protoss players around. I mean, he was probably the person responsible for causing Nada to permanently, go downhill, the slump. Nada was still playing well, making it into the round of 8 of the MSL when he came across Jangbi, I believe, in 2008. And Jangbi stormed so many tanks into the ground that Nada, I don't think, psychologically ever recovered from that. Even though Nada is such a mentally strong player, but you don't survive getting like 20 storms cast on you in 5 seconds or 10 seconds and come back from that. And sadly, not only that, look at that 12 Nexus Insanity here by Jangbi. There you see a white guy in the audience. Insanity by Jangbi on the map Pathfinder already, and this is going to be just one exciting finals. You can already tell. Fantasy here is, of course, going for the standard build. He is not scouting out this 12 Nexus, which could be quite bad for him. I am a bit worried here for Fantasy because, a Terran player, and this is sort of like what Flash used to do. He used to hide in his base all the time without scouting. These days, Flash would have an SCV out scouting to see what is going on. You see the 12 Nexus, he will respond immediately with a rush to deal with it. But Fantasy, if he can't find this out, he is going to be at a severe disadvantage. This is a very bold move here by Jangbi. And, and the other thing about Jangbi is he's made it to 3 finals. Once he lost to Luxury, and that was in the MSL, and then he lost twice to Visu, once in the GOM TV Avertech Intel Classic tournament, and once in the MSL too. And he never recovered from that. He had a really bad year, 2010, and a good chunk of 2011 too, until he started coming back. Now, and look at that. He's back in the OSL, and the first OSL he's backing, he's already made it all the way to the finals. Now, this wouldn't be a royal road for him, but, it's almost like a sort of royal road. And that's, what can you say about this? Jangbi trying to take revenge against Fantasy here, who defeated his teammate Stork in the last OSL. And Fantasy, of course, obviously wants to do well, beat Jangbi here, and then he'll have beaten Stork when Stork was playing well. He'll have beaten Jangbi when Jangbi is coming back and sort of on fire. That is an incredible accomplishment if he can pull that off. And now, Fantasy seeing this 12 Nexus, he knows he is in trouble. So, let's see how Fantasy decides to respond. He's already put down a command center in his base to expand, but is he going to try to put down more factories soon to try to do something? I don't think he has that option. He doesn't really have the choice to do so. Now, he is just behind in this game already, economically behind certainly, and unless he can win a field battle or pull off some really good harass, I fear Jangbi is going to run away with this game already. It is quite early to be calling something like this, especially in the finals when surely both players have prepared some clever builds. Fantasy, especially, is a very creative, innovative player, and it's very difficult to know what sort of special tricks he may have prepared just for this event. Surely he's prepared something. not only to entertain and delight his fans, but of course to win the finals. I'm a firm believer in the finals that just being good and solid and consistent is not good enough. Like a player like Stork, who destroys, at least Stork when he was playing well, not these days of course, poor Stork. Sad on carriers. What the hell is going on here by Jangbi? Jangbi pointed out Stargate is going for two Nexus carriers, 2 base carriers. What? This is batshit insanity. You never. Okay, that probably shouldn't say words like batshit. Well, yeah, you never know. I don't think this can be rated R, I guess. But regardless, utter insanity here by Jangbi. I don't know what he is doing. 2 base carriers, you don't do 2 base carriers anymore. That's a build from 2006. Ever since the Flash build came out, those builds are completely ineffective. Unless it takes the Terran player by surprise here. If Fantasy does not scout this out, if he does not scan, and he is caught unawares, he will be destroyed, and that would be quite sad for Fantasy here. This is what I mean. Finals, I think playing solid is insufficient. Just playing safe, playing cautiously, not going for anything crazy, that is a recipe for defeat. Look at that fleet beacon going now. And the second gateway, and something's getting built from the Stargate. Is that a scout? I don't even. Oh, that's a Corsair. Well, okay, so the Corsair is just for scouting purposes. I was like, is it gonna be a scout? Is this gonna be that insane? Apparently not. Corsair though, there is another possibility. He could be going for Disruption Web. We saw a player do this to Flash in the Pro League way back in June. I forget what player did that. That did not work out well against Flash, but I'm pretty sure this is just a scout. We'll see though whether anything is building out of that Stargate. That Corsair just running around, taking a look here, sees the second command center, and now Fantasy sees the Corsair. He's probably thinking, WTF is going on here? What exactly is Jangbi going to trying to do? I am the creative player. Jangbi needs to be careful of that mine. Okay, the Dragoon barely killing that mine in time. These Dragoons have managed to trap in 2 Vultures there. If the Dragoons can kill the 2 Vultures, that'd be nice work. Of course, Jangbi does not want to push ahead without either an Observer or apparently bringing a Zealot to absorb the mine. Nice! That was cute. You see that? That Zealot drawing out the mine, and the Dragoons picking off the mine from a range, but unfortunately for Jangbi, he did lose that Zealot, killing those 2 Vultures. And Fantasy's been incredibly passive this entire game. I mean, Jangbi hasn't attacked, but he's taken some pretty insane risks and done an insane build, so I wouldn't call that passive exactly. But Fantasy's just sitting his base. He's taken another expansion to sort of try to catch up against Jangbi, but Jangbi's not trying to expand, not really right now. He is going for 2 base carriers. He wants to end this with a surprise attack before Fantasy can react. And now Fantasy bringing down some Vultures. Will he spot anything? No, it looks like these Dragoons are going to ward away the Vultures here. And that Corsair is still floating around in the base. It sees the armory, but there are no Goliaths. This is exactly what Jangbi, I guess, wanted to do with that Corsair. He just wanted to see what's going on. If he sees Goliaths, he'll probably expand. That would be my guess. And if he sees, no Goliaths, then he's just going to persist ahead with these carriers. That's pretty clever, I have to say. Jangbi clearly has prepared for this game, whereas Fantasy, I really worry for Fantasy here. Jangbi would be wise to not reveal the carriers super quickly. At least, build up a few interceptors on these 2 carriers before unleashing them. He might be wise to actually build up 4 carriers, but no, it looks like Jangbi is going to unleash these carriers immediately. I wonder what exactly he's got planned here. Obviously, Fantasy is going to respond by pumping Goliaths from all those factories right now, and he's going to be able to afford quite a number of Goliaths pretty quickly, so Jangbi is not really trying to surprise Fantasy here. I am not quite sure what Jangbi's plan is exactly. Maybe he's going to try to force Fantasy to switch into Goliath and then overwhelm him with Ground Army? That's an interesting plan here, but I'm not sure how well that's going to work out. You can see that Jangbi didn't even have a robotic support bay. Now these 2 carriers are not going to be a match against those Goliaths. There are already 4 out, probably 4 more on the way, and with 8 Goliaths, these 2 carriers will be pretty much nullified. So I am not quite sure what Jangbi's plan is. He's just using these to pick off a few turrets here. So while I would certainly say that Jangbi had the strategic initiative. Now he's sort of on the back foot again. He's got some more carriers out, but and he can do a little bit of damage, you know, picking out the vulture here, a turret there, but he's not really done too much. And Fantasy just scanning there to see the third base going up here. Both players on 3 base. That does nominally give the Terran a bit of an advantage. And Fantasy has a pretty strong mech army. He's got a number of Goliaths, plenty of tanks. Certainly, Jangbi doesn't have much on the ground there to deal with the tanks. I don't think... Does he even have speed for his Zealots yet? I haven't even seen a Citadel. So I worry a bit, really, here for Jangbi. Maybe he's going to try to snipe some of these Goliaths, and then once he's... Or maybe he's going to snipe the tanks. That's my guess. He's going to snipe the tanks and then use his ground army to polish off the Goliaths. That could work out quite well, and it looks like it is working out for him. He is doing good damage to those tanks, picking out 3 tanks without really any losses. These Goliaths coming, doing some damage here. Good micro here by Jangbi using the cliff. He may lose a carrier. He's better watch out as he's scanning just to get range. That carrier almost dead. That carrier surviving by the skin of his teeth there, and Jangbi microing super well here. Jangbi would be wise to pick off some more of those tanks. There are only 3 Goliaths left, and this is Jangbi's chance here. If he can pick off some more of those tanks, he can launch a direct assault on that army and crush the Terran push here. That would give him a massive lead. Jangbi microing out of his mind here. Fantasy, not quite with enough Goliaths to deal with this. I think Fantasy was as surprised as I am, perhaps. He thought he was going to be fine, but Jangbi's hit and run tactic really working out very, very well here for him. And I would say the game is now firmly in Jangbi's hand. You can see that Fantasy's responded by building a massive number of Goliaths, but he's got very little else on the ground now. Jangbi's just going to pick off these remaining tanks, and then his ground army will have a field day against these Goliaths. There are only 2 tanks left. Looks like Jangbi is not going to bother with that little assault force. He's just going to use his carriers to try to hold this army off, which he can. I mean, once he takes out the tanks, there's nothing that Fantasy can do to threaten his base. And then he's going to assault Fantasy's main base there with Dragoons. You can see Fantasy has 1 tank and something like 8 or 10 Goliaths there. That 1 tank, as long as it's picked off by the carriers, it's very, very easy to pick up by the carriers, rather, and then these Goliaths can go to town on the... the Dragoons can go to town on the Goliaths. And Fantasy truly is in some desperate trouble here. His natural under direct assault by all those Dragoons. He's got nothing to stop it. He's got no tanks, which is what he needs to deal with this. These Goliaths are going to do nothing against the Dragoons. Fantasy not quite able to attack at the natural either. He's just falling apart this game. Out-microed, I would say, here by Jangbi. I was a bit surprised when Jangbi revealed his carriers so quickly, but he's clearly had plenty of time to practice his carrier micro, and things are working out very, very well here for Jangbi. Jangbi gonna win Game 1 in decisive fashion, and Fantasy just not quite up to the task here, I have to say. Fantasy desperately trying to repair the command center as natural, but it's pointless. Without tanks, he cannot fight back these Dragoons. I mean, the Vultures and the Goliaths just getting absolutely slaughtered here by the Dragoons. Fantasy finally managed to get 1 tank out. That one, what is Jangbi doing? Why didn't he pick off the command center? He should have focus fired it down when he had the chance. Okay, he's found another command center. He wants to kill this one. And maybe he wants to kill some more. And look at Bisu there, looking a bit concerned there for Fantasy. Bisu surely helping Fantasy practice. Still no speed on those Zealots. What is going on? This is the opposite of Reach. Reach, he would just get Zealots and not worry about the Dragoons. What is Zealots with speed, of course. Although, thing is, Reach Zealots, even without speed, are about 10 times deadlier than any other Zealots in the game. Anyway, Fantasy in desperate trouble here. Korean commentators just panning his face. He actually looks kind of okay. But man, desperate strength. Now the Zealot speeds is finished. This is going to be the end, I feel. Massive Zealot assault here at the front. Fantasy might hold out for a bit longer, but he's going to take catastrophic losses. Mercurius is going to come in and finish everything off. This is going to be GG. Brilliantly done by Jangbi. He is going to take Game 1 in decisive fashion. Excellent play. Fantasy not quite living up to his namesake of being creative. He played a very standard game and lost. Very boring. He did nothing clever, creative, and you know, maybe we have to fault Bisu here for not helping Fantasy practice hard enough. Okay, that's not true. We fault Fantasy for not practicing hard enough here. Bisu, I'm sure, did what he could GG. I mean, from Fantasy, of course. Thank you for watching.